0-2 from Melanson. And he whacks it to deep left field. Back goes Worth, looking up, and it's out of here! T.J. Rivera gives the Mets the lead with his first major league home run. What a spot! T.J. Rivera, his third hit, his third RBI of the night, and he gives the Mets the lead in the top of the 10th, 4-3 New York.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Final Score. Today, we're going to be joined by a special guest star. We're going to be talking to T.J. Rivera. T.J., thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Definitely excited to get you on. We watched you come up for the Mets and play some really incredible seasons. Now we know that you have been in the minor leagues and you're currently in the Phillies organization. So I guess we'll kind of start with growing up and getting into baseball. As a kid, what caught your eye about baseball? What made you want to pick it up?
Man, there was probably a lot of factors that kind of took place in my life that led me towards baseball. My parents were big into it, and growing up in the Bronx, watching Jeter and those Yankees of that time, winning all those World Series, playing playoff baseball. I think that drew me to the game so much. I think that that type of baseball, that energy, and them winning, I think I just wanted to be a part of something like that. And then both my parents as well played, softball and baseball growing up. Since I could remember, I always had a bat and ball in my hand. And then living back in the building back in the day in the Bronx, I'd be playing wiffle ball every day. And I think I just enjoyed it so much, and I kind of caught on pretty quick. And then, like I said, the Yankees, just watching them growing up, I always wanted to be a part of something that big and to bring that many people to a stadium and bring so many people joy brought me, I think, to love the game and to chase it.
And with everything you've gone through from, watching when you were younger to being able to have the ability to play professionally, if you had to boil it down to what would baseball mean to you with everything you've been through?
It means a lot, man. It means a lot. It brings back a lot of great memories, with my family, with friends, a lot of accomplishments that I was able to achieve. And, I still have a lot of goals I have set out but it means a lot because it's just been my life since I could remember. Family and baseball, and they've always supported me and given me the opportunity to play this game, and I've just been blessed, really. So it means a lot. It really does. It's a lot of the great friends that I've met and come to know and have been through baseball, and a lot of great experiences. I've gotten to travel and I've gotten to do a lot of cool things, just because of the game. And I'm very fortunate for that. And I hope to keep pursuing my career and just leaving it all out there and see where it takes me, in the future.
Yeah. And so you had all this help growing up, like you mentioned, your family and your friends. Did you always know or think that you were going to maybe get there one day to the big leagues?
Right. I'm sure all you guys had dreams, of doing something at some point, right? Like, so I probably pictured some crazy scenarios in my head when I was a kid, and it probably had something to do with being in the Yankee Stadium and winning a World Series and doing the things, Jeter was doing at the time. So I kind of pictured it in that way, and then I started playing and getting a little more serious, I think, in my teenage years. And I was always, decent when I was younger, but who knows where that's going to take you, So I think in my teenage years, I started realizing, wow, I might have an opportunity to do something with baseball. So I kind of just ran with it, and yeah, I don't know, it's been a blessing, but I still have a lot I want to accomplish, and in my dream, well, there was a lot to my dream, there was more to it. There was winning World Series. Playing in New York in front of my family, I was able to accomplish that. But I think deep down, I always had this feeling when I started getting older that maybe I can play this game professionally. And then, I was able to get signed. And I think it started becoming, more and more serious of an idea. As a kid, you always think, I'll do this, I'll do that. And,
Yeah.
win a couple World Series. It seemed so easy at the time watching the Yankees.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, I could do that. But then it started getting more serious as I became a teenager. And then I think, when I got into pro ball, I realized I was just like the other guys. I had an opportunity. I had a jersey on my back, so why not really believe in myself and just leave it all out there.
Yeah,
so I guess I did kind of have that feeling that I'd play professional baseball at some point. I always felt like I would, but and I was just really blessed and fortunate to be able to do so.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we know that you went undrafted coming out of Troy University.
Right,
so after that draft, what went through your head? And do you think being undrafted motivated you more?
Yeah, I think in ways. At first, it was kind of a letdown, and it was crazy how my career has kind of unfolded because I didn't get drafted. I had 4 opportunities to get drafted all through college. I went to junior college, a community college for 2 years, and both years I could have been drafted. Got to Troy my junior year, could also have been drafted that year. Senior year came. It was kind of my last little opportunity to get drafted. And so it was I didn't have much talks with scouts and stuff like that at the time, so I didn't really expect maybe to get drafted, but there was always this hope deep down thinking maybe somebody would pick me up in the late rounds. So it was tough to see I guess you could say those dreams and hopes kind of disappear real quick. So I think when I did get an opportunity, I got a call a week later from Tommy Jackson, a scout with the Mets. And he asked me, do you play short? Hey, T, whatever, introduced himself. And I remember just getting a random call about a week and a half later after the draft or so. And he said, hey, do you play shortstop? And I was like, of course I play shortstop. You could ask me if I pitched. I would have been like, yeah, I pitch. I would anything for a chance, right? But I really did play short. And so, yeah, I remember getting that call. And then that was it, really. I knew I had an opportunity. And at first, I knew I was going to have a lot more work ahead of me, than probably most guys that were drafted in the early rounds. That's just part of the game. It's a business. Those early guys get a lot of money. There's a lot of investment in them, so they get more opportunity. But at the same time, I'm playing the game as well, and I might be on the bench in the first couple of weeks, and I might have to prove myself a couple more times.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just part of the game. It's just, it wasn't handed to me, and it wasn't handed to any of those guys, even the guys that were first rounders. They had to work too, and they had to put in the work and the effort. So I don't know. I think I was always motivated by, just this passion to play the game because I loved it so much, and to give back to my family, because they put a lot of effort for me growing up as a kid to play this game. So I felt like I had an opportunity. I was undrafted. I might be a little behind, than the others, but that's no excuse. I got to give it my all and see what happens.
So as an undrafted player that had more obstacles to overcome to get to your end goal, like you talked about, was there any other anyone you look to as an example as an undrafted player or someone that was maybe overlooked early on that you saw made it to the next level, performed at a high level, and then used that as motivation?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if there was anybody I can think of off the top of my head that really it's funny because a couple years back, I looked up guys that were undrafted and guys that were similar, to my situation. I know Mike Piazza was one he wasn't undrafted, but he was a really late rounder. And I can't really put a name to all the people that have probably, been in my situation and pushed through. But I do remember years back looking into it, and it was actually quite a few guys that, make it up to the big leagues, win a World Series, do a lot of things that were, not expected of them. But really, there wasn't one guy. There was just this, passion and this belief in myself to say, hey, I have an opportunity, and that's really it, man. And then I got to take it as much as advantage as I can of it. I got to leave it all out there and not make any excuses and just wait for my opportunity to perform and be ready for when that opportunity is. But yeah, the guys I looked up to, I think they had a little easier route, the Jeters and the first round. I think he was bound to be up there, and then obviously with his skill, he was going to be there for a while. A-Rod, I looked up to his swing. That was my favorite swing to watch. So I was probably like any other kid, just looking at all the or any guy really watching the stars perform. But yeah, those were the guys I kind of watched growing up. Bernie Williams, the Paul O'Neill. I liked Paul O'Neill because he seemed like a grinder, go-getter. He played hard. Bernie was my man too out in the outfield, and but I don't know one guy that that was an undrafted guy that kind of had a similar story. But I'm sure there's many out there that have done a lot of great things.
Did growing up in the city as a ball player, did that have an effect on your mentality with all the great players that come from that area?
I think so. The city, I think when I didn't know any different growing up in the city, I wasn't sure. I didn't know there was anything out there, anything that was different really, other than, going to Puerto Rico here and there with my family. And baseball was, I don't know if it was that popular compared to the southern states. Baseball's a lot easier to play all year round or more often down here. I'm in Alabama now, and I went to school down here. But the passion for the sport, I think, is great up there, and there's a lot of great players coming from the inner cities. It's just a little harder, I think. I think there's a lot more distraction. I don't think the talent is probably looked at from the scouts perspective. I don't think they go up north as much as they probably come down south. That's just part of it, and then there's a lot more distractions, like I said, in the city. You can go a lot of different routes, a lot of different avenues. But I think the baseball in New York at the time is what drew me to the sport, when, like I said, with the Yankees, them just winning all those World Series and watching it, having those memories with my family, watching them perform in the playoffs, the crowd erupt, and those kind of things, I think, is what drew me to it. And I hope the inner cities and where I grew up, I hope baseball kind of expands and becomes more popular, and I hope people do start to look out there a little more often for players, so they can get opportunities. Because at the time when I came down south, a lot of New Yorkers were doing that at the time. There was multiple guys. I came from the Bronx. There was 3 guys that came down with me from Washington Heights that were playing with a different high school at the time, and we all left, and we were just chasing a dream. And I hope that at some point we don't have to leave New York to go chase a dream. You know what I mean? We can do it there. Start from there, and we bring baseball, to New York a little more, just like the southern states. I know it's tougher because of the weather, but I just hope in the future that's a possibility.
Definitely.
So we know you had some. Good.
I was just gonna say, with your off-season training, sometimes players have some things that they like to do on the side, whether it's another sport or anything like that. Do you have anything like that, or is it pretty much baseball for you all year?
Pretty much baseball. Now my kids keep me active. They're like, even if I had a hobby, there was no hobby anymore. Like, enjoy your time now. You guys are young, and you just, because when the little youngins come running around, man, they take your time up. So they're keeping me busy. That's my activity now in the off seasons. But really, just training. I love training. I enjoy it. I enjoy the practice part. I don't know how many people do, but I enjoy trying to grow in whatever it is I'm doing, and right now I'm chasing baseball. So I'm going to give it my all, read about the game, watch video, and go work out and train for it. And I truly enjoy that. So that's really what I do in the off seasons. It's really kind of just get after it. I take a couple weeks off after a long season, enjoy some time with the family, kind of take a deep breath and relax, because it's a stressful, long a journey. One year, one season it doesn't seem that long, but it takes a toll on your body mentally and physically. Yeah. So I'll take that, take a week or 2, maybe even more, sometimes 3, and then let my body relax, and then get back into it, get focused, get a plan, and then get after it, man. And that's my big off season thing, is really hitting the weight room, and trying to make, prepare my body for next spring, and then to try to last the whole season again, and to do it all over again.
Yeah, that same mentality you've always had, which is just that like grinding to be able to get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. I kind of take that into the off season, you know, and that's kind of the player I've been, and that's just been my mentality. Sometimes it's a negative, I guess, because, you know, it might be too much. Sometimes you do need to kind of, I think, take it a little easier. I'm learning that as I get older, but I enjoy it. So I enjoy the grind a little bit. I enjoy getting after in the weight room and seeing if I can improve my game in ways and get in better shape. And as you get older, you learn that you can't do it as consistently because your body will start breaking down on you. But, you know, and then that's another game in within, you know, so let's grow the mental side of things. And that's something I learned as I get older as well, is, you know, trying to prepare my mind for a long journey in this upcoming season. And, you know, it's a game of failure. So got to train the mind a little bit.
And as you talk about training and also idolizing Derek Jeter growing up, he always had that same mentality of, you know, being the hardest worker. And I always remember this quote of his that he said that he wouldn't always be the most talented player on the field, but he'd always be the hardest working. And that was something that even, you know, my dad told me when I was younger.
Right.
And so for you as a ball player, idolizing him, definitely sharing that same mentality.
Yeah, I think that kind of carried over. I think that mentality, watching him, I think that had something to do with it. You know, my parents as well. My parents always guided me in that direction. My dad always told me, you know, when I wanted to go hang out with my friends or do something other than play or practice, he always told me there's somebody out there working harder than you, you know, or there's somebody out there working as you go out. And you know what I mean? And that
Right.
always went in my head. But also watching the Jeters and the guys that go get it and have that mentality that nobody's going to work harder than them. I think that just kind of stuck with me, you know, watching those guys. And I think it's something I wanted to do in my future as well. You know, and everybody's different and everybody's got different talents, but, you know, the mentality, you know, if somebody else can do it, you know, why not me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know you had some phenomenal years in the minors. You batted 301 early, and then you also had 349. When you got that call in 2016, what was that like to get called up to spring training?
Man, so I think I was in spring that year in 16. It might have been 15 too. So I started off with spring with the team, but there's no breaking with the team. You know, I was a non-roster invitee, so I'm not on the roster. I'm kind of, you know, getting work with the team and able to like kind of prove myself and show what I got a little bit. But I knew at the end of that spring I wasn't going to be in the break with the big league team in 2016. So then, you know, I went through a season, had actually a really good season. It was Vegas in AAA in 16. And then I got my call in August. Yeah. And that was, you know, when I broke. So I think it was August 9th, I got the call. The 10th, it was my first game of 2016. Yeah, that was pretty special, man. There's nothing like it, you know, and, you know, you're one step away, right? And you're performing well and you hear rumors and, you know, people might have got hurt up top and, you know, there's a lot of craziness going on and you might be the guy to get called. And man, there is some funny stories because about a couple of weeks before that, my buddy Ty, he got his first call up, and I think it was the day before he got his first call up. One of my Frank Viola, the pitching coach, comes in and goes, "TJ, you know, Wally wants you," who was my manager at the time, and the team erupts. Like they start screaming because usually, you know, your coach announces something like that, and the manager wants to talk to you. It's something either, you know, good, and I was playing good at the time, so everybody starts erupting and kind of like I thought, oh man, this might, you know, my heart dropped. I was like, oh man, it's about to happen. He's about to call me up, and then he's like, you need a day off tomorrow, and I was like, oh my god, I was like shot. I was like, oh my god, it's never gonna happen. Why am I doing it? You know what I mean? Like it was just crazy.
Right.
It was really funny, and then it led up to a couple weeks later. Had a doubleheader. Played the first game, and Wally brought me in and said, I'm going to give you a day off, or the next game off because we had a second game, and then he told me, you know, you got a flight going out at 12 and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so and he gave me that news, and it was crazy. You know, at first I was shocked, and you don't really believe it. You don't know how to react because, you know, there's a lot of guys up there grinding with you that are not getting the call, so you don't want to be, you know, throwing your stuff and acting like a maniac when there's a lot of guys. There's guys struggling at the time. There's guys that, you know. So on the, you know, you don't want to go crazy, but it's a great experience. It's a great feeling. And I remember going out and calling my wife, calling my mom, my dad, being able to tell them that, you know, we finally made it. And it was really special, man. It was a really special time. And I'll definitely never forget that moment.
So having your dad grow up as a Mets fan, you mentioned how you watched the Yankees, growing up, but your dad was a Mets fan.
Mhm.
So getting called to be a part of the organization that your dad was a fan of, did that add any aspect to it, make it more special?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, so when I first signed with the Mets, my dad was obviously, the happiest out of everybody because he was always a Met fan,
Of course, yeah.
and everybody else in the house we were all Yankee fans. And so just getting signed with them, I thought was really cool. And then being able to go and play my first game in Citi Field, for his favorite team, and obviously mine at the time too, because they were the ones giving me the job and the opportunity. So I had it was unreal, man, and it was great that I got to do that at home. Got my first hit there at home, and yeah, I think it had a little more, a little special touch because it was the team my dad always grew up, loving, and I thought that was pretty cool for him. Yeah, not for me as well.
Did you ever receive any advice, whether it was from one of your teammates or even one of the guys you were going against, that ever stuck with you?
Uh, Man, I've had a lot of great advice. Whew. There's not, and I'm sure I got notes. I take notes all the time. I'm big on taking notes on my phone. I can probably go through and find some, but there was a lot of guys that kind of they guide you. There's some older players that guide you along the way, but even coaches. You meet a lot of great coaches just in spring training alone because everybody's there together, right? So when you go off with your team, you're with your set coaches, your head coach, your manager, hitting coach, all those guys. But when you're in spring, you're meeting all the coaches of each team, and we're all together. So there's so much great advice and so much positivity that I've had in my life and throughout my career and that helped me stick to the game and learn the mental side, and all the older guys that have been through it. And they gave me a lot of great advice. I don't know if there was one guy that really, or one quote I can really tell you that I would really say that changed the game or that was really meant something. I had a lot of great guys when I got called up too, kind of helped me ease my way into, playing in New York and playing in front of the big fans. Jay Bruce was great. Always made me feel like comfortable, like I belonged. Grandy was a great teammate as well. Just always happy, always smiling. And then there were some great coaches coming up through the minors as well, that I really enjoyed just kind of watching them and learning from them.
Mhm.
Even Rojas, that's right now the manager with the Mets. He was my low A coach, and he was great too. He was one of my favorite managers coming up. Wally, when I was in AAA, always fought for me. Was a great manager. Was a player's manager, always fighting for his players, and I feel like he was part of the reason why I got my call. He fought for me, I think, and but yeah, that's really it. I mean, there's so many guys. I can't even really pinpoint one. I can just tell you that throughout my journey, I've been blessed with a lot of help. I haven't done it all on my own. I try to grow and do everything I can do personally on my own, but there's been a lot of help, whether it be my family, my wife. I've had a lot of support, and those coaches and players and stuff coming up have been really helpful.
So we talked about you had that incredible season. You
Mhm.
quickly became the starting second baseman and you started in a playoff game. Was there any moment in that season where you thought to yourself that I made it? Like after all that hard work, you made it there?
Yeah. I think after it all happened. So after the
Mhm.
end of that 16, I think it all happened so quick. I mean, I remember my first game. I can't. I feel like I blinked and it was over, and then I was in my hotel room and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that was, that was amazing." But I didn't think I made it. I knew there was more work to be done. I knew I had to keep performing. I had to be ready. This is an opportunity, and so I never really settled down and felt I'm here. I'm here for good. And I'm sure a lot of guys never do really. Because there's always somebody coming for your job. There's always somebody in the hunt in AAA or behind you AA, wherever it may be. So I never really felt like that. I think at the end of that season, 2016, where I got some good playing time. I got some good playing time at second. Played well, in whatever 100 or so bats. It wasn't that much time, but it was about a month's worth of playing. I think I felt like I belonged. After
Mhm.
that, I went home, did the same usual routine. Got a couple weeks of relaxing, and felt like, okay, I belong here. You know, I can play here, but then there's more work to be done as well. You know, so yeah, I don't think I've ever sat there and said it's, you know, I've made it and got complacent, but I had been appreciative and said, man, this is a blessing that I made it to one of my goals. You know, it truly was. It was, you know, not many guys get to do it. I got to do it in my hometown in front of my family and friends. And so in that, and you know, in certain ways, I was like, yeah, I'm here. You know, I'm here in the big leagues. I'm playing for New York, but there's still work to be done. That's always been my mentality. So, but I think at the end of that 2016 season, I finally kind of sat back, realized what happened, and realized I can play there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, out of all your moments, whether it be minor league or major league, is there a moment that just stood out to you more than others?
Probably pretty generic. I probably, you know, my first game and that first hit. I think that probably sticks out the most because all the work I had to put in to get there, man. It was a crazy journey, wild, just long, you know, long bus rides, you know, going up and down in the minors, you know, being let down, being stuck on teams for a little longer than I would hope, going through slumps, questioning, should I be playing the game? You know, all these crazy emotions that kind of go through 5 or 4 years of minor league baseball and wondering if, you know, do I keep chasing this dream? Am I doing the right thing? When you're struggling, you know, having these overs, it's a crazy mental game. So, and then just getting back to work and putting all that work in and being in the off seasons and grinding and just leaving it all out there, sacrificing, being away from friends and family. It all hits you when you're there, you know, and just standing on the line. I remember for my first game was pretty special, you know, just the national anthem and standing there and taking it in. Cause you know, that's a peaceful moment where you get to kind of take it in a little bit and kind of look around and be like, man, you know, I remember coming to this field and watching while I was coming up in the minors, because it used to be Shea, you know, it wasn't Citi Field when I was a kid. So, but I remember watching at Shea and watching at Yankee Stadium, you know, those guys were like, I don't know. I remember looking at them like they weren't human, you know, and then I was on the field and I just kind of, everything kind of ran through my mind, you know, man, I did a lot to get here. My parents are here. My sister's here. My wife is here. What a cool experience. And then I got my buddies that I played with in high school screaming, you know, people I hadn't seen in years, and all that kind of just hits you, you know, and then it's time to go to work. And I got my first hit in extra innings. And that was, I think that was the most, there's 2 special, really special moments. Well, I guess you could say 3. I can start naming them, but my first homer was really cool. My first hit was really cool because it was at home in front of my family in the first game. But I think just being on the line that first game, you know, and taking it all in, I think that was probably my most special moment. Yeah. And then I got to do it in front of my friends and family, man. That's, you know, a lot of people get called up and family has to fly out all the way across the country that night. And it's a long journey, and they're, you know, and some people have to miss their first hits or their first games, and their families don't get to make it. And I was just really fortunate that I was home, you know, and everybody, it was just a 15-minute drive from home for the family and friends, man. And that's pretty unique, I think. So I'd say that's definitely my favorite moment so far, is experiencing that first game with my friends and family.
Yeah, it's gotta be unreal.
I mean, yeah, it's surreal, man. You really think about it. I know there's a lot more. I mean, I'm sure there's, you know, I go win a World Series in New York now. That's a whole nother feeling, right? Like that moment at the time for now has been my favorite for sure moment, you know, to enjoy that, not just for me, but for all the people that kind of pushed me along the way. It's like you have this this moment of gratitude, you know, like of really just being really thankful for the people in the stands, because they busted it just as hard as me. You know, I had to leave my family in New York to go chase my dream in Alabama. They gave me the opportunity to. My wife sacrificed a lot coming up in the minors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't make any money, and she's pushing for me. She's sacrificing for me. So yeah, there's nothing like that. Being able to like kind of say, you know, thank you. That's kind of my way of saying thank you to them, was, you know, get my call up, and they got to experience it too.
So, you know, you talk about how you always had all these guys growing up looking up to Jeter, A-Rod, you know, guys like that. Now, young players that are coming up, maybe an undrafted player, maybe, you know, a young ball player in the city. Now they can look at you as somebody that's, you know, gone through the struggle and made it to the MLB and, you know, had productive seasons and everything. So what would your advice be to a young ball player like that is on their way up in the ranks?
Man, there's a lot of things you can tell someone, you know, because everybody's different. But for me, there's a couple things I learned kind of as I started playing and getting into pro ball, was how important it was to strengthen your mind, you know, and especially in a game of failure like baseball. I think in any sport, I'm sure mental toughness is key, right? So I think that is one of the things I would really nail on, because it's such a mental grind. You know, the physical part, you could work on your tools all day. You could sit in the cages all day and fine tune things and watch video, and those things are important, and I still think they are. But that mental side, that mental like hunger, because it's a long season, and if you can just, you know, day by day, set plans, set goals, and break the season up a little bit into certain time periods, you know, because I didn't learn this right away, but I did as I got older. It was like kind of break it into certain time periods, is see what you could do for this month, and then even smaller, see what I can do this week. Or I got a series this series coming up, a away series. I got 7 games, away trip, a road trip, and I'm gonna go give, you know, how many at bats would that be? Let's say, you know, 40 at bats. I'm gonna leave it all out there for 40 at bats. Let me see what I can come home with, and then do it again for that next week. I got a 3-game series at home. I'm going to give these 15 at bats, everything I got. You know, I'm going to hit the ball hard, control what I can control. So those mental things, I think that's a big edge, and that kind of helped me get through the grind of the minors. So that's something I would tell a young kid, you know, don't worry about your numbers, throw them out the window, because I know that's what gets you up top. But the truth is, it don't matter. If you're focused on numbers and you're focused on things that you can't control, it'll just run you crazy, man. You can't control certain things. You can't control getting called up. You can't control if you hit a line drive and it gets caught. Those things that you can't control, throw them out. It's easier said than done, because trust me, I've been there in slumps. I've been there not getting called up. You know, it goes to everybody's head. It's not, people are human, right? Like we're gonna hear those things. We're gonna have fear. We're gonna have struggles. But the things you can't control, throw them out. Stay focused on your goals. Set goals weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. And work on your mind, man. Work on your mind as much as you work on your body. Because in college, I was all body. I had confidence. I played hard, but I was all body. I was like, had a bad game, and I'm in the cages. That's the mentality, you know. And then I learned, man, I gotta learn how to stay strong up top. To get through a long season, you know, 140 games in the minors, 160 in the major leagues. It's a long journey. So work on that mind, set goals, you know, stay positive and just keep grinding.
Yeah, all pro sports are mentally taxing, and baseball definitely seems to be one of, you know, the extra challenging mental ones. Like Yogi Berra said, 90%. Right. Baseball is 90% mental. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, with slumps, all those things, it's more so than other sports at times. Baseball is extremely mentally taxing.
It's I don't think people realize it as much, and maybe I just think too much, but I've realized how important it is to be mentally strong, and like it is in every sport, right? Because in every other sport, there's big crowds, there's media, there's pressure from the outside. There's all that. That doesn't change. That's in all sports, right? Like everybody's got that pressure to do good, the winning shot. It's in all sports, right? So that's the mental side. It's not just in baseball, but there's that mental side of baseball where you can do everything right as a hitter, or even as a pitcher. You can do everything right. You know, everything you worked on. I square a ball up, boom, and I hit it right to the center fielder on a line, and now my average goes down. And if that's what you're focused on, you know, then you're not winning battles. That if I can say that I did that right, I take that. That's a win. I did everything right. I can't control where that ball goes. That's it. I smashed that ball. I won that at bat. That doesn't happen in other sports as much. You know what I mean? You kind of control it a little more than that. When you do something right in other sports, the ball goes in the hoop, or, you know, a guy catches the ball. Just, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can control a lot more. And that, when you do everything right in baseball and you don't get the results, number results, it's tough to deal with. So learning how to deal with that throughout a long season, man, you get a lot of at-bats throughout a year. And pitchers too, it's the same thing. They can do something right and make a pitch and somebody get a little bloop single, and so it goes for all positions on the field.
Absolutely. Well, we just want to thank you so much. We could sit here and we could talk about baseball,
Right.
just for hours, whether it's about youth and crew or just watching the game now. But we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on.
Well, I'm glad I finally got to do it, man. I'm sorry it's been such a hassle. I've been, Puerto Rico we were playing in Puerto Rico, and it was crazy, man. It was a long off season. So I'm glad we finally got to get it done, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy, hardworking guy, family guy. So we're definitely thankful you took some time to talk to us. We learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Have a good one, man.
You too. See you guys.
See ya.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Final Score. Next week, we'll be at it again with more sports discussions and seeing what's going around the sports league. And special thanks to TJ Rivera for being so nice to be able to come on to our podcast today. So thank you for listening, and this has been The Final Score.